What's up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Queer and Present Danger. It is the edition. Yep, we're talking about a deep love, a
Why
deep
are you
love.
censoring the pride?
That's because I say it really loud.
Oh.
A deep love. Whoa, 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 whoa. People, let me tell you. We can't sing it though. Y'all know what I'm talking about. So, guys, I am your host, JB. I have our beautiful co host, Tyler, here.
Aw.
Uh, Tig may or may not be able to make it tonight, but we are going to carry on without his dulcet tones um, for the time being. If he's able to make it on, I'll bring him right in here. But we are going to have a very, 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 very like fantastic, fun conversation about pride, what pride is, what pride isn't, how it started, and what it means to us individually. Um, yes, so is that's it. But first things first. Um, Tyler, how have you been? How was your week?
um, I had a lot of personal things going on, family wise. So I spent most of my weekend with my family.
That's I it's that is always I enjoy spending time with my family, even if it isn't the most, even if things aren't going great or there's some the event, the reason that I'm with them is not a happy one. So I'm glad you got to spend time with your family. Um, my weekend was pretty good. I did a whole lot of nothing, which for me is rare. I think you know that. For me, it's that's a rare thing for me to be like, I don't have anything to do today. So yay. Um,
That's always nice.
it is. It was so great to just be able to be and to chill. And I spent most of Saturday watching cartoons because that's what I enjoy doing. And having a mental health check-in day. So I think those are
It's
important.
great. Every time I plan to have a chill weekend, I look outside and my grass is like, oh no, you're not. You're gonna be mowing.
Listen, I'm so glad that I don't have to work. I don't do that.
And otherwise, it's laundry. Lots and lots of laundry. I don't know why. I don't feel like I wear that many clothes, but I guess I do.
You, mm, huh? I was gonna say something, but I realized that that is not appropriate.
Letting out my secrets,
Telling all your secrets and stuff,
spilling on my tea.
spilling your tea, and I'm not gonna do that. I'm a good friend. We don't spill each other's tea. Um, at least not not for everybody else to hear.
We sip water and vodka.
I do no such thing. I'm a good Christian woman, and we don't do that.
We sip water.
We sip water and think about the things that we can do to get our, read Bible verses.
I do like to. I do find it fun whenever I go to the bar or whatever, and I'm drinking a glass of water, and someone's like, "What's that?" And I'm like, "It's straight up vodka, because I am a bad bitch."
I'm just drinking vodka. That's what I drink. Um, and I've been doing this for a long time. I'm not new to this. I'm true to this. So, sorry that you can't handle,
Straight up vodka.
the pureness that is clear liquor, but I can. And so do better for yourself.
Yeah.
Now, I, on the other hand, am not I'm not a big drinker. Which is weird because it's not weird, but I'm just I'm not the biggest drinker. I will have a cocktail once in a while. Because why not? I'm grown and I'll do what I want. But when it comes down to it, I'm just I'm checking something real fast. Hold on, I'm trying to get things done that I should had done before, and I didn't because I'm bad at everything. Thank you, bitch ass bitch. Save. Um. Yeah. So we're kind of pre-showing it a little bit before we get into it. Like I said, we're going to talk about the history of Pride, what Pride means to us, and so while I'm still getting this ish together, there we go. One more place. You know what I'm saying? Make sure that you're tagging this and you're sending it to your friends and saying, hey, watch these homosexuals um do things or don't. I mean, but do your best. How about that? Do your best. I'm almost ready.
I was like, I am not sure where you're going with that.
I do does there do I ever know what I'm doing or talking about? Do I ever have
Sometimes, maybe.
let's be real. We
I was
tell
just trying to be
truth.
nice.
We tell truth here on this show. But here on this show, we tell truth. We tell hard truth. And the hard truth is that I don't always know what I'm talking about. I don't always know what I'm doing. I just try my best. So, at any rate, let's get into it. For those who don't know what Pride is, the general history, Pride is a celebration of LGBT history, LGBT culture, and LGBT identity. And it started long ago. Back in 1969, there was a riot at the Stonewall Inn, which was a gay bar. And from that birthed this entire movement for the rights of LGBT individuals. And I think what I want to do is kind of dig into what life was like pre gay rights movement. And because I think that a lot of times, especially people who are not queer, have this idea that oh, they're just celebrating because they're gay, or they're just celebrating because they're in they're part of the alphabet mafia, and this is just a way for corporations to pander to gay people. And while that last one can be debated, I think what it really comes down to is prior to the gay rights movement, a lot of people who were queer were not safe. There wasn't any protections. As a matter of fact, I think the opposite is true. There was the government and people were hostile towards LGBT people. And what the Stonewall riot was the idea of fighting back.
So, more than being hostile, it was actually illegal. It
Right.
was illegal to be a homosexual. It was illegal to engage in quote unquote homosexual activities. And we are going to use that word homosexual because that is the word that was used at the time. I know it was used pejoratively and people have their feelings about the word, but as a historical and scientific term, liking the same sex, that is that's what it was about.
Correct. And it's a lot of it is credited, that riot, the starting of that was credited with Marsha P. Johnson, Sylvia Riviera, and Storm Delavernet, which I'm probably getting wrong. Stormy Delavernet. And I would like to outwardly say these were trans women of color. These were people who were of African and I believe African, Dominican, and Latino descent, who really at that point had just been tired of what was happening during that time. Whereas essentially, just being in a bar that was considered a queer bar or a gay bar was enough to get you thrown in jail. Was enough to get you you were, and still in a lot of places, being gay gets you ostracized from your family. The idea you could lose your job, you could, if you, God forbid, you had children, you could lose your children. There were
It
a lot of
was, yeah, prior to the so there's this book called the DSM, which is a mental health book. I honestly can't remember what it stands for. Um, Let me just look that up real quick. It's the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders.
yes,
So we are currently on the fifth generation of this book. Prior to all of this, we were on the fourth, I believe. It's either the third or the fourth. Don't quote me on that.
we're the fifth, DSM
I
5,
I know we're on the fifth,
right,
but there were some things that changed between the fourth and the fifth. One of them being that that homosexuality was removed as a mental illness.
as well as
Prior
transgender.
Yeah, prior to that, they were considered mental illnesses. And if you know anything about mental illness in that time, it was lock them up in an asylum, and we don't want to look at them or deal with them
Correct.
because they're different.
And it's I as a personal aside, have always said that, well, not always, but I've come to the belief that, like, um everyone's queer. Everyone's queer in their own way. um you know and so right now, especially in the political climate that we're in, um you know transgender rights are under attack, LGBT rights are under attack. And what happens when that dog gets that bone is that they're going to just go for another bone. And so at some point you might be the bone they go after. So I always caution
No pun
people.
intended.
I didn't mean it that way, but
Alfred Kinsey actually also he proved that point that that sexuality is not something that is that's binary. It is he created something called the Kinsey scale, and it is it's the amount of like the degree of straightness or same-sex attraction that you have, and so it went on a one to a 1 to a 6 scale,
Mm-hmm.
with 0 to 6, because science. Uh, sorry. 0 is exclusively heterosexual, and 6 is exclusively homosexual. So he did this. He had this survey, and he surveyed all of these people. What he found out was that people in that time were actually pretty kinky.
Yeah.
This was 1948.
And it's really interesting because like very few people are Kinsey zeros or Kinsey sixes. Most people fall somewhere along that spectrum. Um, and it's interesting to me when we talk about, you know, oh, gay right people are just, I've had people say gay right people are bullies because we don't believe the same way they believe, and they don't, and they won't accept our beliefs. Well, here is, for me, I think of it like this. If you don't believe in LGBT rights, you don't believe in my right to exist. And that is a non-negotiable for me. Like, my right to exist is a non-negotiable. That isn't something that we can discuss or agree to disagree on. It is, you gotta agree that I can live, bitch. Like, you gotta agree.
And then I don't have a mental illness just because I have attraction to someone of the same sex.
Correct. I got into a conversation with somebody earlier today, and I said, here's the deal. My, as an American citizen, my the inalienable rights that I have are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And if you do something, or you are for something that takes away one of those three things, then like those are those are non-negotiables for me. You know what I mean? Like life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I'm not asking you to, and gay people at large are not asking you to give us more than that. We're asking for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We're asking to live our life without fear. We're asking to be able to love who we love, have the same rights and liberties as anybody else, and exist. And if you are against that, then there isn't anything that we can discuss. You know what I mean? And so to kind of go back to the history of LGB, and it brings to that point, when you think about like in Nazi Germany, they had the pink triangles, where they were recognizing these people are gay. It was a outward sign that these were homosexuals who engaged in homosexual behavior, and therefore they should be punished and ridiculed. And we're going to brand this pink triangle on their clothing so that everybody on the street can mock them, so that everybody knows that's who they are. And when you think of that, when you think of the idea that in America, it was illegal to be a homosexual, when you think of that even to this day there are places where you are not wanted, it is openly dangerous to be LGBT. That is why we have pride. That is why pride exists. That is the thing. And I think that we get caught up in the weeds of, well, this is just my belief. I just believe this. And you're right to believe what you want to believe. I will never take that away from you. But when you are actively doing things that causes harm to my right to exist, that is when we have a problem. But
So, bringing up the pink triangle, just to circle back, that was a symbol that was created during in Nazi Germany,
mhm,
and it was a way to identify. This was in the 1930s and 40s, and it was a way to identify quote unquote sexual deviance. So this was predominantly homosexuals, but they lumped that in along with zoophiles and pedophiles. So just for some context there, lesbians and bisexual women and transgender men would be classified as asocial, and they were given a black
black,
triangle.
correct. And I think it's interesting when you that connotation, you know, is something that still persists. When you hear people talk about, oh, they're just trying to, indoctrinate children, or hey, they're just trying to do this or do that. It goes back to that original you know, idea of lumping homosexuals with zoophiles and pedophiles. And, to me, I ain't never wanted to be with nobody's child. That ain't none of my bit. That ain't nothing. That's not my ministry. I don't play with talking toys. Know what I mean? Like, I just got to put it out there like that, like straight like that. I don't play with kids' toys. You know what I mean? But it's so dangerous to spread this rhetoric of, what about the children, especially, and this is a tangent that I'm about to go on, but I want you to follow me here, right? Follow me. You don't have a problem with kids seeing all the violence, shooting things, bloody stuff. You know what I'm saying? Fighting people and people fighting in the streets. You know what I'm saying? Man, all kinds of sexual situations, unless it has something to do with people of the same sex. And then all of a sudden, you want to be like, but what about the children?
Unless they're the ones that are actually queer bashing, in which case they're praised.
Yeah, and which, yes, you know,
I said it.
I mean, yes, yes. Um, that being said, to kind of go into some more history and stuff, um, gay pride or Pride Month was not a thing until 1999 when Bill Clinton said, you know what? Let's get them homosexuals June. It's hot. They're going to be out in the little shorts anyway. Let's let them have it. You know what I mean? Give it to them. It's fine. Uh, um, and that's it. I'm joking, but that is when it became um, gay pride month became a thing, and it became a thing because of the Stonewall riots. So if you were
And
out
act up.
and act up and all of that, but if you are out, these next couple of weekends hanging out with your friends, having a gay old time, think a trans person. And more importantly, think a black trans person. Think a Latino trans person. Because those are the people who did the work and fought the fight so that you could have the things that you have, so that you could go out and you could play, listen to the latest Billie Eilish dance mix. And I mean, I don't know if there are dance mixes of Billie Eilish. I don't care.
There are.
but listen to your like diva sing their song on a stage, and get free cell phone plans and stuff from your local pride. Um, thank one of them because they're the reason that this exists. So that was my rant on the beginnings of Pride. Um, what does Pride mean to you, Tyler?
Well, I also wanted to I wanted to add to the beginning of Pride,
Yes.
and kind of go back to Stonewall. So a fun little fact that a lot of people don't know.
Oh yeah, I forgot
Because
about this.
yeah, because everyone talks about Stonewall and they're like, yeah, they just um, people, queer people, gay people, they just finally had enough and they fought back. But what a lot of people don't understand, or a lot of people don't know, is that just a few days before Stonewall, the great gay icon of the time and of forever, Judy Garland, died June 10th, sorry, June 22nd, 1969. She was born June 10th, so she had also just had her birthday. Damn. But so she died June 22nd. The Stonewall riots occurred on June 28th. That night, everyone was gathered there at Stonewall to memorialize and celebrate the life of Judy Garland. When some police officers, and back then they would throw pennies, and they had a very specific term. They had a slur called coppers. So the police officers showed up and started hassling folks. And it actually does kind of make sense because you know those Latino women, they can be spicy. But at that time they're like, we're sitting here trying to we're trying to memorialize our gay icon. You can just F all the way off. And they wouldn't back down. So the next time, and yes, bricks were thrown.
Bricks were
So
thrown.
because the first Pride was a riot.
Yep.
It was civil unrest. It was and it was instigated by a raid that happened when we were just trying to gather together and mourn the loss of our icon. Think about if Lady Gaga or Madonna or Dua Lipa were to die, or any gay icon that you can think of, and you lived in a time when it was already completely unsafe for you to be out, for you to go to locations that had been targeted as locations um, where queer people gathered. So you were already putting yourself in danger to be there, but you needed to be with people that were like you, that understood you, and didn't have social media, didn't have um, didn't have cell phones, couldn't just call. Like you could physically call someone if you knew their number, but then you'd have to actually know that they were gay. And how would you advertise that if you aren't able to without putting a target on your back?
Correct.
And people associate it with quote unquote sexual deviance, but when people are just trying to meet and connect and
Find community.
and have a community, how are you supposed to do that without setting up some kind of secret code that the greater populace is not going to understand or be aware of.
Correct. It is born out of a place of
Necessity.
necessity. And I want to throw out a couple of quotes here. I want to get to what pride means to you because I think that's very important. um but or some statistics. In 2015, an LGBT pride parade was disrupted in Turkey with tear gas and rubber bullets. And in 2016 and 17, the uh, the governor's office of Istanbul did not allow pride parades to take place because of security concerns and public order. Currently, in the country of Uganda, it is still illegal to be gay. Um, in
And in the United Arab Emirates.
in the United Arab Emirates, it is still illegal to be gay. And so there are still countries out there that do not have where those citizens do not have equality. And that is why pride exists. That is why. I grew up in, pre-cell phone era. I'm a gentleman of a certain age. Mm-hmm. So I grew up pre cell phones, pre um uh words, Jason, they exist, pre social media, all of those things, where in order to find that community, you had to go to gay bars. You know, there was chat rooms when I was growing up, but you had to so you could be in chat rooms and find people that way. People will find ways to find their tribe and find their community in when they can or however they can. And you know, gay bars were the way to find that. And police up up in through the mid 2000s knew that, and there would be so many times where you could just be hanging out with your friends at the bar and there's a police raid. No one's doing anything, there's no illegal activity, just a police raid.
Just to
And they
make
would
sure that there wasn't anything illegal going
just to
on.
make sure there was no illegal activity happening, because how dare the homosexuals hang out and do literally anything and be around, and like how dare they. And so I think that we have to really be careful when we criticize um pride. And I have my criticisms about pride, and we're going to get into that in just a second.
One
But huh?
one other thing.
Yep, go ahead.
Um, so back to the sexual deviance. Um, I mean, you couldn't advertise. You weren't even safe in your own home. A lot of times, if you were not married, you were automatically a target because because of a lot of the PTS from the Red Scare, the Lavender Scare, communism, Cold War, all that kind of stuff was like kind of in people's minds, and everyone had to be this nuclear family and pretend to be normal, because if you weren't normal, then you might be a communist.
Oh,
And so, therefore, because gays were not normal, they were automatically associated and lumped in with the commies. But when you think about it, and you think back to a time when you would, you'd have, as men, you have urges, and
nuh-uh.
these guys, they were going in terrible, dank places. We're talking like, you know, trucker restrooms where there's like everything everywhere on the floor. We're not sanitary conditions. We're talking there's a place in New York called the Meatpacking District, and it was literally where meat was packed. Yes, that is also
Where they were
where
packing
they
meat.
packed the meat.
Where they was packing meat, girl. They was the
But I mean,
cost
can
made
you
us pay.
imagine the smell? But that's how
Oh,
desperate people were. That's how desperate people were to have a connection with someone that understood them.
yeah. To have people that literally that to find connection, to find comfort, to find to commiserate, and it had to be. And I always think about like you know pre HIV and AIDS, and that's because that's what a lot of that was. There was no the idea of having a loving relationship was foreign to so many of them of those people because they knew they couldn't live out loud. They couldn't have relationships. They couldn't be with the people they wanted to be with. And so all they had was sex.
I had to push that down and marry a beard.
They had to marry a woman and hope that, that their secret was never found out.
And if they were really lucky, they would, by some miracle, find a woman that was actually okay with their sexuality, knew and understood them, and would cover for them while they were doing that. But to even have that conversation,
Yeah. Takes, listen, and when you
there's
think,
still people today that are afraid to come out
yeah,
and afraid to have that conversation with their wives.
and they're afraid to have that conversation with anybody. You know what I mean? They're afraid to truly live authentically who they are because of how their families will treat them, because of how their friends will treat them, because of how, and it's still common. It's still a thing that is that we kind of take for granted that like people are allowed to live in their truth, and people are allowed to be who they are, and they will find acceptance. But in so many different places, even in this country that we live in, that isn't the case. There are so many people. If you scroll down to any of the apps, be it Grindr, Scruff, Sniffies, if y'all don't know what any of those are, you're better off for it. But there are people who live who are on those apps that say married, discreet, married this, married that. That is, they can't live their lives out loud and authentically.
And
They
we're talking
can't.
CEOs,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of people that come from like ultra rich families that even those families, well, a lot of them are Republican, and just saying, a lot of those families would completely disown them and cut them off from their inheritance.
Yeah. Those are people who they would lose everything that is important to them, or everything that matters to them, for the simple idea of, because I love this person of the same sex, or because I love this transgender person, or because I love this person who is non-binary that happens to have the same sex organs that I do. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many things, there's religious pressure. As someone who grew up in the church, who grew up very religious, it was a hard thing for me to find acceptance in myself apart from that I am not immediately going to hell and God hates me because I'm a gay person. Because God made me this way. You know what I mean? This is the way that God made me. This is the way that I was that I was born, and there ain't no changing. There ain't no changing that. It just is what it is. Um, Hold on a second. And no matter, it doesn't matter how much praying or laying of hands or anything that I could do to make that go away. It just was what it was. And it's really, really, really difficult. Like, I get it. I get that people hold really strong and really fast to their religious beliefs, but your religious beliefs are yours. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't mean that you need to legislate your religious beliefs. That doesn't mean that you need to hire and fire based on your religious beliefs. That doesn't mean that you need to ostracize people in your family and people in your life because of your religious beliefs, because they're yours. The beliefs that I hold for my religion and my spirituality are mine, and they end at your front door. And one of the things I was just looking up, that kind of backs this point up about like people being where we still have a long way to go just in the world. The first Pride Parade that was held in Thailand was in June of 2022. That is 2 years ago. Now, I don't know if y'all know about Thailand the way I know about Thailand. Ladyboys, that's all I'm gonna say. You know what I'm saying? Like, there is a large queer population in Thailand, and they're just now doing, 2 years ago, doing their first Pride Parade, where they're asking for rights, and the lady boys in Thailand that's a big thing. That's a big deal. You know what I mean? Like, that is something that is in you know entrenched in Thailand society. Like, but they were not able to be proud of who they are. What to me, what pride is isn't being prideful. It's no longer having shame.
Yeah. And to circle back to the religious trauma and such, um, I'll share a personal story and I'll keep it short. Um, when I was a teenager and I came out, my mom wanted me to see this person at this church that, spoiler, actually ended up being a pedophile ring. Not that she knew, so get that clear. But a few years later, actually, they found out that the coaches were not doing good things and shut the school down that was inside the church. Anyway, um, so I met with this guy, and he proceeded to tell me how he could fix me. Yes, I am referring to conversion therapy. And it didn't mention anything about like actual, machines or anything like that. But I don't think that wasn't off the table. But he did say and gave this story about how he, used to be a homosexual living in sin, and, had a lover, and etc., 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 and then found Jesus and was saved, and learned how to control his urges and reprogram his brain. And I I spent like 3 or 4 sessions with this guy, like an hour long, while he talked about, all this shit. And at the end, I told him that, I'm really glad that he found something that works for him, but for me, that sounds an awful lot like brainwashing, and I don't feel why I should have to change my mind and reprogram myself when God made me this way. And the same God that he's saying and that he says, made in his image, you're born perfect. So why do I have to change my mind and go through all this step to literally brainwash myself to be straight? And I said, I don't I don't think I could live with myself if I did that. And I said, and I'll be praying for you.
And I'll be praying for you. And then you found out that he was praying. He wasn't praying. He was praying on little kids. But that's a whole different. But that brings me to a really interesting uh, idea of another reason why pride exists, and that is the amount of LGBT suicides because you don't have anyone to talk to. You don't find community. Everyone in your life is telling you that you are wrong. Something is wrong with you. That God doesn't love you, that your existence is somehow an affront to God. And I can tell you from my experience, there were many, many nights during my teenage and early to mid 20s where I cried and I prayed for God to take that away from me because I couldn't bear to live knowing that I was hellbound and that there was nothing I could do about it. And I remember having a conversation with someone who was in the church, and I said, if God made me who I am, and He made me with these urges, how is it wrong? And that person said to me, that is your test from God. God is testing you to see if you will can turn away from those and turn towards Him. And every time, and I mean every time that I engaged in, and followed those urges, and I felt an intense amount of shame, an intense amount of regret, and what it did to my psyche, my self esteem, my confidence is taking years to undo. And I know that I am not nearly the only person that went through that.
I
I
mean,
guarantee.
we're not murderers. We're not cold-blooded killers.
And I guarantee anybody out there who's listening and who's watching this can tell you a story just like mine. Can tell you, that they felt worthless and useless, and that they were completely, that God doesn't love me, and that, you know, everyone in my life is, when they find out who I am, they're going to leave because I'm such a bad person. And I didn't do anything. I was a kid. That's why pride exists. That's why we need pride. That's why, to show those kids, and yet show those little kids who have the same feelings and the same thoughts that I had, that there are people out there who will love you and who will take care of you and who will care about you, and that you're not alone.
And that they have futures.
Yeah. Sorry, I was trying to not be emotional.
You can't really talk about pride and not get emotional. I mean,
Yeah.
let's be honest. If we're going to strip away all of the stereotypical, vacuous, um, just frivolity and BS that people associate with pride, if we strip all of that away, strip away all the glitter, all the glamour, and everything, and just distill it down to the meaning of pride. Just like Christmas. It's not about the fancy lights and the stars and everything like that. It's about that human connection, that feeling. So if you strip all of that away, and all of the noise and chaos and everything, for people that disagree with all of that, just like people disagreeing about if you should have a tree or should not have a tree at Christmas, or if Santa Claus is Satan, or whatever. I'm going off on a tangent. Sorry.
No, tangent away.
But if you strip all that away, pride is that feeling, that knowing, and that celebration, and that we're standing up to our oppressors. We're standing up to the people that put us down, that demean us, that want to erase us from history. We are standing up and standing for our rights and saying, we are human beings. We have the same inalienable rights that you do, and we will not be silenced.
Yeah. And I think that it's what's
tyranny. We are standing against tyranny.
Oof. Tell them, preach it and make it plain.
Yeah, I'll use those January 6th words. You.
Okay, so, now that we've explained, we've given you all of the explanation on what pride is, what it means. I explained what it means to me. Ty, do you have any more about what it means to you?
Yeah, it's it's about knowing that there's hope on the other side, that there are people like you that share your experiences and share your struggles. It's about visibility, and it's about community, and saying a big F you to the protesters.
Yeah.
Because hate is gonna hate.
I'm so mad at you for that.
I love that every year, I will say this, I love that every year, and I've been going to Pride for years.
because you two are a gentleman of a certain age.
Yeah, a little
Not as
bit.
many ages as I am, but
Yeah.
a certain
I'm a
age.
millennial, if you couldn't tell by my voice and my mannerisms.
Technically, so am I. I'm also Gen X as well.
Yeah. Um, but
I'm bi-generational.
but there are less protesters every year.
Yep.
And one thing that I've noticed within the past 10 years is there are churches now that will actually stand in front of, beside, or around and block those protesters. And there are churches, especially like United Methodist and people that have signs that say, "We are sorry that our religion has hurt you."
And and the thing about religious hurt is that it is a hurt that doesn't go away because it exists in a place of belief. It exists in a place of these are the things that I have been taught my entire life. And that hurt doesn't just go away. That isn't something that you get over. It is a thing that persists. It persists with me even now. Um, that I do that make me question, what my role is in, with God, or, even question that existence. Because if God made me for the specific purpose of going to hell, then that's a monster. You know what I mean? Like, and so, it's a lot that we get into, and I'm sure that we'll get into this again once we have. And I realize something: the two of us need Tig around to keep us on track.
Please. I have not gone off on a 30-minute rant. Thank you very much.
I mean, Tig did do that last episode. Check that out. At the beginning of the episode, before we even had a chance to do it.
Love you, Tig.
Love you, Tig. Wish you were here. So let's, we've talked
We've
about
actually covered a lot of ground, and we're not even at the hour mark.
right. So let's do quickly because I want to keep it, relatively cute for time. But I want to get into the corporatization of pride and why I think it is both a bad thing and a good thing. For me, I think that it's a good thing because it's more visibility. It's more that shows, that corporations are at least attempting to put their money where their values are. With the caveat of, great that you change your Twitter picture to a rainbow during June, but like, what the fuck are you doing, from July through May? Like, are you doing things for LGBT causes and things during when you're not doing that?
Or providing a safe space.
Or providing a safe space for your employees, providing a safe space for your customers, things like that. Are you doing the work that goes along with, with that activism, or are you just pandering so that you can make $20 more? You know what I mean? Like, but I also think that it takes something away from what pride means. Because now it isn't about, these are our rights and we are standing up for our rights and standing up for our ability to exist. And now this is another way that we can have advertisers in front of people to make money And that to me is an issue. It's just that for me is those are my two kind of things that I wrestle with and I struggle with, because when you have corporate sponsors at Pride, you're able to do more things. You're able to have bigger stages. You're able to bring more people in. You're able to do these things. But what is the cost that we as LGBT people are paying to have them there? What are your thoughts?
I will say that it's not as the the pragmatism of it has started to wane, because 15-20 years ago, if you were a corporation and you were sponsoring Pride, you were putting a target on your back.
Mm-hmm.
You knew that there was going to be backlash and that people would boycott your products and everything else. But you were doing it because you either really wanted to support the LGBTQ plus community, or you wanted our money. And we gladly gave you our money because it gave us visibility.
Correct.
Now we've come to a point, I won't say that we've come to a head yet, because there are still many rights that we do not have as human beings. But I will say that we would like to see more policy and less lip service.
Absolutely. There still has not been an LGBT head of a Fortune 500 company. Actually, before I say that out loud, let me double check that, because I could be wrong, but at least.
But there are a lot of Fortune 500 companies that have adopted policies to protect LGBT plus individuals. I will say, and I will say this: they did this before it was federally mandated.
Okay, I was wrong. I apologize. My bad. Let me say them out loud. Tim Cook.
Say their names.
Tim Cook, CEO of Apple, is LGBT.
Ah.
I
can see that. I thought he had
Jim Fitterling, CEO of Dow, is LGBT. Jeffrey Gannett, CEO of Macy's, is LGBT. And Beth Ford of Land O'Lakes is LGBT. So yes,
we love our butter.
There are, and that was as of June 2023. So hooray, give those people a round of applause, because that is a very, very, I'm sure that is a very lonely hill to be on with just 4 other motherfuckers. But that means of the 500 companies in the Fortune 500, 496 of them are not.
That explains why Apple is so gay friendly.
That's not enough to make me switch to an Apple, though. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. Fuck your fruit phone, and I mean it. I mean it. I
am broadcasting to you live from my Mac Mini.
Fuck your fruit phone. I'm just saying. I hate to say it that way. And Tim Cook was the first LGBT CEO of a Fortune 500 company. So, of course, Apple is on the forefront. I'm not going to hate on them too much, but fuck your fruit phone. Well, guys, that was our Pride episode part 1. I'm sure once we, when Tig comes back next episode, we will probably revisit this topic again. I'm also there might be a super surprise guest next episode. to talk about whatever the fuck we talk about on this show. As a note,
I do want to I do want to add a couple of things though.
absolutely.
All right. So, now regarding coming out, identifying as LGBT plus, etc. Um, there are individuals, just like in any society with any quote unquote fad, that think that it is okay to identify as as a member of the alphabet mafia, when they themselves do not actually belong to it.
Ooh, you about to shake the table. You about to shake the table. Okay, let's go. Let's see what we're going. Let's see where we're going with this. So go ahead. I'm all ears. I'm listening.
So, stop it. You can be an ally. You can support them. This is not a fad. This is not the next big thing. This isn't trendy. This is our lives. This is our identities. You may think that it's cool, but don't. If you come out of that closet, then you better actually identify.
Then you better have a dick in your mouth, damn it.
Because it is people like you that are the reason we are getting so much backlash in the schools right now, with people like Ryan Walters that think that we are setting a trend when people just want to exist. So stop it.
Oh, that motherfucker. Whatever. He had a dick in his mouth too. Shut up. I was trying to figure out who he was talking about, and okay.
Well, and the reason I brought this up is because I had been talking to I've been talking to my brother and my soon-to-be sister-in-law, which I'm so happy about. She's so cool. But anyway, they were telling me that there were, when they were in high school, especially in high school, there were a lot of people that were claiming to be part of the Alphabet Club for attention. And that really made my blood boil, because that was something that I was accused of being, just an attention seeker, whenever I was when I actually had the courage to be out at school. And so I really felt like I needed to say that.
No, I listen. It's very valid. It's a valid thing to say. It definitely has its merit.
And just because you're a cis white dude doesn't make you a bad person innately. You can still be an ally. It's okay.
I don't know. Somebody told me I was racist against white people, so I can't say nothing.
Well, I'm here to say it's okay. You don't have to be a part of the club in order to support the club. Just don't pretend to be part of the club to get attention or to, level up your careers.
In the words of, and this is the one time that you will ever hear me quote this person. In the words of Christopher Maurice Brown, how you gonna hate from outside the club? You can't even get in. Like, I'm just saying, like, but anyway, at any rate. Ooh. So guys, that's our show. I was going to cut some gay Republicans out, but I'm not going to do it. It don't make sense. because they don't make sense, and you can't make sense out of nonsense, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. But
Well, I mean,
I,
we did cover the we did cover the shame and the isolation, feelings of isolation and everything. So I mean, we covered what they live with on a daily basis.
the table is shaking again. The table is shaking again. This episode is just a good old table shake. You know what I'm saying? We're pulling people down from the rafters and shit.
I
But
mean, I'll be honest because I was one at one time. So, you know, I I know the game.
you know how they feel
I
because you're
played the
used to
game.
it.
I know the game. Doesn't make it right. And the thing about it is, you're on the wrong side of history.
I mean, hopefully, I don't know these days. Like I don't know these days. I'm starting to wonder if I'm on the wrong side of history because I believe in things like minding my black ass business and doing what I got to do. Um, but who knows what's gonna happen. But guys, before we get out of here, there's a couple of housekeeping things. Right now we don't have sponsors. We're still getting started. We're out. But what we do have is a Patreon. Patreon.com/KCAPC. If you enjoy this content and you want more, please make sure you give if you can. If you can't give, then a simple like, a comment really helps the algorithm and helps us get this out to more people. And we can continue to have these kind of very, very important conversations, because I think um, the fact that we as queer people that live in the society that we live in, our voices need to be heard when it comes to the political and the social as well, and especially people who don't ascribe to or live in the gays were just like you kind of mentality, which we're going to get into. I want to get into that next week or next episode, and I already have the title of that episode: gays we're not just like you.
But in a
Stop
lot of
trying
ways,
to.
we are.
We'll get into it. We'll get into it.
I know so many people that if you were to see if you were to see photos of them, or if you were to see them on the street, you would absolutely have no idea that they had same-sex attractions.
That's not what I mean, but we'll get into it.
Oh, okay.
We'll get into it. It's an idea of what you know what. Just a quick aside. I was going to do it, but let's jump into just a little bit of it right now. Nope, not gonna do it. Don't forget to like, comment, because then we will be here for another hour.
Okay, fair.
And no, we're gonna be good. I'm gonna be good. But yes, guys, we love you guys very much. Once again, to our other co-host Tig, we hope everything's okay. And we love you, and we'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Have a happy gay day and happy Pride.
And quit telling people with uteruses what to do.
They're not your uteruses.
They're
You don't
not
have
your
one.
uteruses.
Black Lives Matter. Trans rights are human rights. And all of the other things that we say on our other show. Good night,
Give them
guys.
the choice.
Choose love. And if not, choose a button. Hit them in the head with it. Never mind. Bye, guys.
See ya.